make the jump and move to number one. It's not certain, but that's the more likely scenario. It's just all about the resume. The committee tends to lean on what you've accomplished rather than the quality of the team. There's a big gap between what LSU has done and what Ohio State has done, even though they're both 12-0. Their strength of record, it's about 3 times harder to be 12-0 right now with LSU's schedule than it is with Ohio State. So because of that and because they would add the win against Georgia, we think LSU would move to number one there.
The perception, not necessarily in Vegas or perhaps with FPI, I realize, is that Georgia is a significant underdog against LSU. Again, that's what most people think. Forget the numbers. What do your metrics tell you is the shot that Georgia legitimately has to beat LSU?
Very legitimate chance. There's a very good shot of an upset, 44% chance that Georgia could pull this off and beat LSU. Look, LSU has the unquestioned offensive advantage in this game, but the difference we think that compared to most people is that Georgia's defensive advantage is almost as strong. And so when you consider that and the fact that the game would be played in Atlanta, we think Georgia does have a decent shot to pull off the upset and get into the playoff.
All right, so let's say that happens. Let's say Georgia wins. Worst case scenario here now for LSU fans. How bad would it need to be? What would have to happen, Seth, for LSU to somehow miss the playoff?
Tigers fans, I think you can really just sit back and enjoy this game on Saturday. There is no scenario where we think that LSU would be likely to be out of the playoff. I'm never going to say 100% they're in because in the world of statistics, it's hard to say with anything that's 100% certainty. But really, even the worst scenario, LSU is going to be in the playoff.
Yes, and they should be comfortable with that. So we'll see how it all shakes out. Cannot wait for the weekend. Seth, good stuff, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's assume now chalk holes. Let's assume I don't need this anymore because I don't. Let's assume LSU takes care of Georgia. All right, no offense, Dogs fans. That opens up that number 4 spot. Now the great debate. It has nothing to do with this league unless you want to worry about who LSU might play if they end up number 1. Who should be number 4 then out of these 3? Let's assume chalk holds and OU beats Baylor, Utah beats Oregon. Where are you going then?
I'm going with Utah, man. I know a lot of the stuff up here. You look at some of the game control for OU says, hey, they're sitting here at 7th, but for me, Utah looks like a team that's in the college football playoff already with how they play. You're talking about playing really stout defense, a quarterback who is second right now in the country in completion percentage behind only Joe Burrow. They run the football really well. This is a team right now I think is designed to be in the college football playoff. And I know OU has played seemingly well at times, but I just can't get over them having to come back from Baylor down 25. It just doesn't look like the team that I think Utah has been dominant for the majority of the year.
And that's the thing. I mean, these rankings, we say start over every week, right? But I mean, the committee has said Utah has been a better team than Oklahoma all season. Unequivocally, they've been the better team. So I think Utah, as long as they win, they're the better football team. Oklahoma, what would they have to do? Oklahoma would have to shut out Baylor. They would have to have an unbelievable defensive performance, because that's what's holding the committee back right now to saying this is a playoff team. They don't think they're complete. Defense started well the first part of the season. They haven't played well the second part.
Here's the other part that I wonder, too, is when Utah plays Oregon, does it matter how they beat Oregon if they beat Oregon? If it's
I think it does, man. Like, listen, I'm not going to sit here. People know I'm a Sooner, right? But I'm not
for the committee's sake.
I'm not stumping for them. I don't believe that's a playoff team. But I will say this. Why do they have to shut Baylor out? Why can't they just beat Baylor? Can I write on this for a second? Absolutely. Looking at Baylor's ranking, Utah's playing a team that sits at 14. Why is that not good enough to get Oklahoma in?
Because
the committee thinks Baylor is that much better than Oregon.
No, I think it's that the committee thinks Utah is that much better and complete than Oklahoma.
Right, but they like resume, right? So would OU not boost theirs more than Utah would boost theirs?
Yes, they would boost theirs, but look at these. I mean, these are all clumped in the same category, per se. One's not 25 or 30
I got you.
and the other top 10. I think they're so close, it's going to come down to the eye test. I really think it will. So the manner in which they win. Now, I will say this. Baylor's got a chance to say that loss doesn't mean anything. They got a chance to avenge that loss.
They do.
If they do it in a dominant fashion, then it might get interesting depending on how Utah.
And Dar, we got to mention, they've had them in front of them all year long.
I know.
So that means something.
Absolutely has. They absolutely have. But they'll flip-flop. And they might show us that Sunday with LSU and Ohio State.
Little finger painting here.
I love it. All right. Look.
Can I add? No.
That only matters if LSU beats Georgia.
Right.
Speaking of LSU and Georgia.
All I do is work, all I do is get paid, yeah. All I do is work, all I do is work. All I do is work, all I do is let me work.
Look out, he never saw the corner blitz coming. Batted down at the 10, down and blown up in the backfield. This is going to be a big one. LSU looks unstoppable.
You're not going to get this anywhere else.
The whole nation's going to be watching.
LSU Tigers going to war. 1, 2, 3.
60 minutes of hell. That's the way we like it.
Obviously, all kinds of implications on this one Saturday in Atlanta. LSU, Georgia. Winner knows it's playoff bound, and frankly, LSU is probably playoff bound either way. It would be, in the opinion of most. But how about a conference title to boot? LSU hasn't won it since 2011. Dogs, of course, won it just 2 seasons ago. As for this particular game, it's all about opportunity.
This will be as great a challenge as we've had. I know since I've been here as far as playing an opponent, and our players have earned this opportunity. We didn't back our way into this game. We earned our way into this game. And we're looking forward to the opportunity to play in what is probably one of the greatest stages, I've said it over and over, in all of college football.
This is their 3rd time here in a row, and they're gonna be hungry. They well coached. We beat them last year, so they got a little chip on their shoulder, you know what I'm saying? And we got to let last year go. Last year is different. We played them at home. Now we play them over there. It's a whole different team, a whole different circumstance. I think we have an excellent coaching staff that people can throw whatever they want after us. We're going to have answers, and we have players that can do it. But again, it's going to come down to blocking and tackling and taking care of the ball.
Yeah, what a matchup it's going to be, right? I mean, these aren't just conference rankings, folks. These are national rankings. LSU's offense, Georgia's defense among the best of the best across the nation. You can see how effective LSU is offensively and Georgia is defensively. Let's get into the LSU offense part of this thing here. We hear all about Burrow and Chase and Jefferson.
They're pretty good.
And what Terrace Marshall throw him into, right? But how about that running back who's become so effective running and receiving? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what's the key for him?
Yeah,
how big is he?
I think he's an X factor for this game. Look, Georgia's defense is for real. No, get difficult on Joe Burrow. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have to run the football well, but that's not going to be easy. Out of the backfield is where he's going to make his biggest impact. Schematically, Georgia is very similar to Alabama. Obviously, Kirby Smart and his ties to Nick Saban. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 9 receptions, 77 yards, and a touchdown against Alabama. I expect that type of game because Georgia's going to have to decide, do we want to bring some pressure against LSU? Because they go so much 5-man protection. They spread you out so much. You got to choose, play coverage or bring pressure. I think we'll see a mix, and that's where those quick throws to Edwards-Helaire on linebackers, on a safety, that's the matchup they're going to love. Receivers are going to get theirs as well, but that matchup with Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be huge.
And that's the interesting part of it is how does Georgia go about doing that? And I think the biggest part of it is what you talk about. When they get those guys in space, they got to be able to tackle. They cannot give up the big plays downfield. They have to play top-down defense. Guys up front like Tyler Clark will have to push that pocket versus Joe Burrow. Then on the back end, you got 2 veteran guys in J.R. Reed and Richard LeCounte who have played in a big-time ball game like this and should be able to communicate on the back end what's going on. But I think up front, these guys got to do a good job of pushing the pocket. If you're able to do that and force them to hold on to the football and then tackle once they get the football, then you have an opportunity to hold that offense because they're used to making those big plays.
Yeah.
When they get in space, that's when they hurt you.
All right, other side of this thing, when Georgia's got the ball. No Lawrence Cager, we know that.
Right.
Top wide receiver. No George Pickens for the first half because of the bonehead maneuver at Georgia Tech, right? Where do they go for production?
Other guys have to find ways to step up. And one guy I'm really looking forward to seeing how James Coley used him is James Cook. James Cook is a guy who in space can be very dangerous. They use him on jet sweeps. They use him on option routes. If they can find ways to get him the football, that adds another option for Jake Fromm to get the football out. But if they don't have another guy who can step up and be a catalyst to helping them move the football, we know how good Swift is. We hope, they hope that he comes along. He's not as hurt as everybody thinks he is. He's able to play. James Cook, Tyler Simmons, those guys have to be difference makers along with Blaylock, along with everybody else who's going to have a difference in this game.
Not flattering numbers of the guys we just saw on that screen.
Yeah, depending on the health of Swift, Cook could come into play for those quick throws, the extension of the running game, getting the ball on the perimeter and getting out of the box, because LSU is going to man up. They're going to stack the box. They're going to man up on the outside.
Everybody has.
Fromm has not been good against man coverage, so Demetrius Robinson, Dominic Blaylock, they're going to have huge games. It's going to be different. We're used to seeing Fromm attack the perimeter, right? The back shoulder throws, the deep crossers outside the numbers. The last 4 games when Fromm has struggled, only 11 completions, all but 1 inside the numbers to those 2 guys. They got to have a big game.
So Pickens and Cager, 73%.
Yeah.
Everybody else only completed 53%.
4 straight games, under 50% completion. Big Saturday for you, of course. We'll get you ready for it on Friday as well. In Atlanta, SEC Now coming your way, 1:30 Eastern. Paul Feinbaum Show in its normal slot, 3 Eastern coming to you from the ATL, and we will get you set. A cast of many on SEC Now in prime time from downtown Atlanta, getting you ready for the SEC title game. Kirk Herbstreit going to join us as well. His take on the new playoff rankings and what it might take for Georgia to beat LSU, and some surprising takeaways from his conversation with Tua earlier in the day.